Deep dives and blue skies. Welcome back to Talking Blue with Nick, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talking Blue, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. I am your host, Nick. Today, we are recapping the Dodgers and the Padres series. That's right. It is one of our more fun recaps in a little while. The Dodgers don't just win the series, they sweep the series. That's right. Dodgers sweep the San Diego Padres in LA. They now retake first place, go a full 2 games up on the Padres. They entered trailing 1. They leave town up 2. Great series. We're going to recap all of it. A lot of good stuff to talk about. 3 good games, good performances. Dodgers held on. So let's get into all that. As always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow us on all social media at Talking Blue Pod. You can follow myself at Talking Blue Nick on X, live tweeting throughout all the games as usual. Wasn't as much tweeting throughout these games, but... And then on Reddit at competitive-week8715. Let's do some injury updates because, of course, there are a lot, as there always are with the Dodgers. So the biggest one was that Max Muncy went back on the IL. Last time I talked to you guys, it was a sad party. We were recapping the Angels series. Max Muncy, it came out that he had some kind of side injury. It's an oblique injury. We talked about it before. They weren't really sure how bad it was. They have come out. It is a grade 1 strain of the oblique. It is expected to be on the IL for the full 10 days. But everything they've said so far is that it's not going to be too bad. He'll be back this year. We'll see. It's very early. I've chosen to not be too scared about that. But last year, and I think it was May, Max Muncy went down with an oblique injury, and he didn't end up coming back till August. So when it comes to obliques, there's not really any science behind it. You pull your oblique, you could come back in 2 or 3 weeks and feel fine. It could put you out for the rest of the year. Again, they have said it's not that big of a deal, and there is still enough time left in the year that he could come back around September 1st or something like that, and you wouldn't really be too worried. But we'll see. It's very early. There are more updates to come, so it looks like at the beginning of this upcoming week, they're going to put him through some testing, and that'll kind of show where he's at. So we'll see. So hopeful, but a little scary, but I don't think it'll be too bad. So there's a ton of guys on the injured list that are going on rehab assignments. Kike Hernandez, Hae-Sung Kim, Michael Kopech, Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott, and as well as Roki Sasaki. All of those guys, again, you would imagine return within the next 2 weeks. Obviously not when the pitchers are a little different. It does look like Kirby Yates is the first one that would probably return, then followed by Kopech. Those guys are late August. These guys are pretty much all on the same timeline. The last one that would probably return is Kike, but again, Tanner Scott, it looks like late August as well. And then Roki Sasaki, again, late August or September, but we're going to see what happens with Sasaki. He had his first rehab assignment, I think it was last Thursday, didn't really look too good. And then Brock Stewart shut down for throwing the last week. They say he's looking better, so again, probably September for him. And then there's not really much of an update on Tommy Edman. They're just taking a chill. So it's kind of funny. The Dodgers, it feels like they've gotten past a lot of their injury stuff, but then when you take a look at their injury list, they actually still do have a lot of injuries. A lot of them are minor guys, and then but some of them are key bullpen guys. So that was a lot of time on the injury list. So let's get into Game 1 of this series, which was Friday night. Clayton Kershaw goes up against Wandy Peralta as the opener, and then eventually Randy Vasquez would come out of the bullpen. So we didn't know at the time who was going to pitch that game. So it ends up being Wandy Peralta. So Diego Padres get on the board first in the top of the second. Ramon Laureano, he hits a home run off the foul pole. This was off Clayton Kershaw, of course. Padres go up 1-0. It was in the bottom of the third where the Dodgers would respond. They had the bases loaded with nobody out after a Freddie Freeman line out. Shohei beats out a fielder's choice, a possible double play ball to tie up the game. And then Mookie Betts, he hit a sac fly to give the Dodgers a 2-1 lead. Then later on, it was the bottom of the seventh, Teoscar Hernandez. He hits a home run to dead center, right center field, puts the Dodgers up 3-1. Later in the 8th inning, the Padres would get a run on the board on a sac fly. This was off of Alex Vesia. Luis Arraez brought in Jose Iglesias to make it a 1-run game. Then we go to the 9th inning, where the Dodgers actually had Alexis Diaz come out of the pen to try to get the save. He gets Xander Bogaerts to strike out. Jackson Merrill singles, so the tying run is on base. Then he gets Ramon Laureano to also strike out. They brought in the pinch hitter in Ryan O'Hearn, so Dave Roberts makes the move to bring in Jack Dreyer. He gets Ryan O'Hearn to fly out. Dodgers win. Close game, 3-2. Really good game. I'll give you all the pitchers first. Clayton Kershaw goes 6 innings. Ben Kasparius for 1. Alex Vesia went 2/3 of an inning. Like I said, he had to come out. Trinan came in for Vesia and got 1 out. Then it was Alexis Diaz who tried to come in for the save. He went 2/3 of an inning, and then Jack Dreyer went the 1/3 and ultimately got the save. Clayton Kershaw, that's where we'll start. He continues to pitch very good. He goes 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run on that home run, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. Only had 3 whiffs in this game. So again, I talked about this previously. A week ago, at the time of this game, Kershaw went up against the Blue Jays. Blue Jays are the best contact team in the game. Padres are actually 3rd. I talked about how I was a little concerned with Kershaw because he doesn't get any strikeouts. Was he going to be singled to death, bloopers? But obviously, you could think, well, if he doesn't get strikeouts against anybody to have success, he's not going to need it against that team, of course. So he's just going to do what he always does, have the team put the ball in play, weak contact. He did the exact same thing against the Padres. 6 innings, only 1 run. He had a lot less hits allowed, too. I think in that Blue Jay start, he had like 7 hits allowed and was able to get some double plays and pitch around some of the base runners. He only had 2 hits allowed in this game, and one of them was the home run. So he really only had 1 base runner on a hit, and then 1 was on a walk. Padres just kept making weak outs. Didn't really hit the ball too hard off of Kershaw. Defense looked really good in this game as well. Alex Freeland was playing third base in this game. He made a couple of really nice plays for Kershaw. And then, obviously, like I said, the bullpen backed up Kershaw in this game. The only earned run was against Vesia, and it was just the sac fly. Trinan did his job. Alexis Diaz. So I was super nervous for this game. I was really juiced up. I can tell when I'm watching a game if I'm feeling nervous or not. This was a game. Obviously, the Dodgers come into the series down 1 in the division, so 1 win ties up the division. So I was super nervous. When they brought in Alexis Diaz, I was like, it was a pretty ballsy move from Dave Roberts, but it looked good early on when he got the strikeout, and then he ultimately got the strikeout as well against Laureano. They just took him out because of the matchups with Ryan O'Hearn against lefties. So a really well-managed game from Dave Roberts, a really good game from Clayton Kershaw. And again, Clayton Kershaw it's kind of funny. He's kind of continued to figure out ways to get outs throughout his career. Obviously, early in his career, when he was the Cy Young MVP, he had incredible stuff along with incredible precision and command. You know, he had a mid-90s fastball, really nasty slider, curveball, was some of the best control in the game. Kind of like a less harder throwing Tarek Skubal. And eventually had a little bit less velocity, kind of in the 2018, 2019, 2021 version of Kershaw, those years. But he still was able to get strikeouts. So far this year, while getting no strikeouts, he's got an ERA of 3.01. He's pitched 72 and 2/3 innings pitched this year. Like I said, only 49 strikeouts, but he has a super low walk percentage, 6.3 walk percentage this year, and then the barrel percentage, 4.5 barrel percentage, so he's not allowing much barrels. Again, that Laureano home run was one of the few home runs he's given up this year, and he's also keeping the ball on the ground. So again, he's kind of just figured out another way to get outs, keeping the ball on the ground and limiting hard hit balls in the air. When you don't have that strikeout stuff, he's just so good at tunneling with that slider and the fastball. And again, he's always been a guy who's pounded the strike zone, but he's really continued that this year, especially because early on, his first couple starts, he didn't have the best command, and he's figured that out. So he's going to be in the strike zone. He's also going to keep the ball on the ground, and it's kind of funny. I don't think they're going to end up needing him come postseason time, but if anything does happen, it'll be nice to know that you at least do have Kershaw pitching in the third or fourth slot potentially. Just can't give all the credit in the world to Clayton Kershaw because he just continues to get outs. And he's no longer, in my mind, just kind of like a rotation filler, which I never always thought about him. I did tell you guys when he made his first start that I always believed he'd find a way to get outs and pitch good. He's never pitched bad. He's an ERA of 2.51 in his career, and this is his 18th season. That's the best all time. Literally, that's not a joke. It's the best all time. And it looks like once again he's just gonna go out. I don't know if this will be his last year and he'll retire off of this, but once again he's just doesn't really matter. Walker Buehler always had a really good quote. This isn't verbatim, but he said something of the lines of, the only thing that's ever changed about Clayton Kershaw is the radar gun number that you see, the fastball velocity. Other than that, he's always gotten outs, has really good numbers. He's one of the best run-preventing pitchers of all time. The only thing is that he's just not getting strikeouts like he used to. In 2023, that was like the last time he pitched like somewhat of a full season. He pitched in 131 innings. He had 137 strikeouts. So that's not dominant strikeout stuff, but that is still like pretty solid stuff. This year, like I said, 77 innings pitched, 77 and 2/3, only 49 strikeouts. So a lot of his expected numbers aren't great. Again, I've always explained this to you guys. When guys don't throw hard and don't get a lot of strikeouts, you're not necessarily going to have the best expected numbers, but when you don't strike guys out and you don't have the best stuff, the best way you can counter that is to keep the ball in the strike zone, so limit walks, and then limit hard hit balls as best you can. And so far, the only time that he's giving up any hard hit balls, they're on the ground. So you can live with that when you're not giving up home runs. And there have been times throughout his career that he has been bitten by the home run ball. It's not been the case this year. So Shaw did his job. The bullpen did his job. Dave Roberts pulled all the right strings in this game. We know that we needed to see a shutdown bullpen after this week in Anaheim. The pen obviously really struggled. Guys like Vesia. So he looked a lot better in this series, so we'll get to that, of course. Let's go ahead and get to Game 2 in this series. Game 2, Blake Snell going up against another one of his former teams. The first time it was the Rays. This time it's against the Padres. Dylan Cease is the pitcher for the Padres. The Dodgers would get on the board first in the bottom of the first. Teoscar Hernandez hit a sac fly that brought in Shohei Ohtani. And then Michael Conforto, actually, with 2 outs and the bases loaded, he singles into right field to make it 3-0. So the Dodgers took advantage of a ton of walks early in this game from Dylan Cease. So they go up 3-0 in the first. Then we will flash to the second inning. There were some more base runners. Shohei Ohtani walked. Will Smith walked. With 2 outs, Freddie Freeman hits a fly ball into right center field. Looked like for a second it could get out. Jackson Merrill, though, dropped the ball. So it hit off of his glove. It should have been an out. He was kind of not camped under it, but he was definitely underneath the fly ball. He clanks it. So 2 runs come in. Dodgers go up 5-0. So a little bit of luck on the Dodgers side, which the last month it's just feel like any win that they did get, they really had to earn. Nothing was given to them. Later on in the 5th inning, Teoscar Hernandez, a little bit of some more pop from Teo. He homers almost in the identical spot and to the ball he hit in the game previous. Dodgers go up 6-0, and they would win by a final score of 6-0. Give you the pitchers who pitched in this game. Blake Snell goes 6 innings pitched. Eduardo Henriquez, we'll talk about him. He goes 1 1/3. Anthony Bonda for 2/3, and then Jack Dreyer pitched again in the 9th. He goes 1 inning. Dodgers win again. After this game, they now lead the Padres by 1 game in the division. First, we'll talk about Blake Snell. He was good once again. His 3rd start off the IL. He goes 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 0 earned runs, 2 walks, and then 3 strikeouts. He had 15 whiffs in the game, so he did bring the whiffs, which he's done in 3 starts coming off the IL. Didn't have the strikeout ball, so he wasn't able to put away as many hitters as he has his first 2 starts. But, again, he continues to pitch very well. He's got his ERA on the year down to 1.8. Again, the Padres are a team that doesn't strike out too much, so they weren't able to put the ball in play against Blake Snell, something Blake Snell hasn't done so far this year, or at least since coming off the IL. He pitched into the 6th inning and got through 6 innings. The first 2 starts of Blake Snell, he racked up the strikeouts, but he only went 5 innings, which is what he normally will do. So him going 6 innings, lately, that's something the Dodgers have struggled to get out of their starting staff all year is length. And you're not really going to rely on Blake Snell to do that because of the way he pitches. But anytime he can give you 6 innings, you're going to take it. It's a perfect 6 innings is exactly what the Dodgers want for a postseason game, honestly. They want you to I mean, of course they'd love you to go all 9 or 7 or 8, but realistically they would love for you to give them 6 innings of shutout ball, and then they could just roll out 3 relievers to end the game. That's probably what they would really want in like a realistic, scenario. So he goes 6 innings, like I said, only the 3 strikeouts, but he did have 15 whiffs in the game. So he had 6 on that 4-seam fastball, 4 on the changeup, 4 on the slider, and then he had 1 on his curveball. He maxed out at 97.7, which is 98 on the radar gun. So more really good stuff from Blake Snell. Into some of his individual pitch mixes, he's continued to lower the batting average against on his 4-seam fastball. It was like over 400. Right now it's at 317, his batting average against, but all the other pitches are really dominant. His changeup is a 192 batting average against with a 46.3% whiff rate. His curveball is 182 batting average with a 29% whiff rate, and then the slider's 167, 55% whiff rate. So the slider he doesn't throw as often because he really only throws that to lefties, 9%. But he's increased the usage on the changeup this year. It's kind of funny when you dive into Blake Snell's history. I always thought he was a guy who never really threw his changeup. Early in his career, that was not the case. When he was with the Rays, he did throw his changeup a good amount. When he got traded to the Padres, he kind of transitioned to more fastball, curveball. He did talk about it in spring training this year, how they kind of figured something out with his changeup. He thought he would throw it more often, and it's been the case so far this year. He's thrown at 23%, which is the second highest used pitch behind his 4-seam fastball. It's interesting. I wonder if he'll continue to increase the usage on that pitch, considering that his fastball is like the only pitch that's gotten hit around this year. And it's been very good. He, obviously because he's left-handed, he's going to face mostly righties, so it's a good pitch to throw to righties. Again, he's a pretty fun pitcher to watch. Again, I know sometimes he could be kind of maddening because he does not necessarily attack hitters. It's just a certain style of pitching. Some, every pitcher does it differently. Some guys attack the strike zone, some guys don't. He gets really good chase numbers, so it really works for him. Now, so far this year, in the 25 innings pitched, he has not have a ton of strikeouts, by his standards. 25 innings pitched, 25 strikeouts. He's normally a guy who gets way more strikeouts. Like in his Cy Young year, he had 180 innings pitched, 234 strikeouts, and then last year, 104 innings, he had 145 strikeouts. So he just hasn't been able to get as many whiffs when he has 2 strikes on hitters. More of that is because of the starts he made before he got injured. And then this start against the Padres, he only had 3 strikeouts, but the 2 previous, he had a ton of strikeouts. So you're not really going to worry about the strikeout stuff with Blake Snell because his strikeout stuff is pretty dominant. When you look at his overall whiff percentage, so just how many swings and misses he's getting, he's got a 34% whiff rate. The 2 prior years, he was at 37. There's been years he's been at 31, 32. His Cy Young year in 2018, he was at 34, which is what he's at right now. So that just kind of shows that he hasn't been as good in terms of getting the strikeout with guys have 2 strikes on them. But, he's faced teams like the Blue Jays and the Padres as of late who don't punch out a lot. So, if he's facing another team instead of the Padres yesterday, he probably gets, 6, 7, 8 strikeouts. So he's been great. And again, we talked about it all year with the injuries. Guys coming off the IL at the right time. Blake Snell is one of those guys. With the way he's pitched, probably your Game 2 starter as of right now. There's still a ways to go, and kind of like the 4 guys that are obviously like in contention for playoff starts. You'd have to throw in Kershaw because of how good he's been, but ideally it's Yamamoto, Shohei, Glasnow, and then Snell. Obviously, Yamamoto's been healthy all year, and he's been their best pitcher, so you kind of have to give him the first start. Right now, if you're probably going off of, where we're at, August 17th, it would probably be Blake Snell if you had to go Game 2. Because of what he can give you with the punch-outs, I think he would be the guy. And again, he's got an ERA of 1.8 right now, and he's one of the best pitchers in the second half ever. And since he's come off the IL, he's been great. So hopefully he can continue that, and hopefully at the end of September, we look up and Blake Snell has pitched in, 50 innings or something like that, probably, hopefully a little more. And he continues to have these really dominant numbers, and we'll see where it all shakes out. So I've been really pleased by, watching his starts so far this year. So then another guy I just wanted to talk about really quick before I talk about Teoscar Hernandez is Eduardo Henriquez. We talked about him a little bit before, mostly because of that crazy throw he made. If you guys remember against the Twins a couple weeks ago. I still can't believe that throw that he made. But he's pitched in 6 innings this year. He does not have an earned run allowed, so that's pretty cool. Super young guy. He's 23 years old. Kind of became popular in the Dodgers organization last year because of how hard he threw. And then he came up at the end of the year, made the postseason roster. Never really pitched that much, but he's improved a lot of things this year. It's kind of funny. The legend about him was how he could touch 103. He never really did that last year. He's back to his crazy velocity ways this year. In this game, he hit 103.3. That's the hardest pitch any Dodger has thrown in the last 10 years I saw. Or I guess the hardest in the StatCast era. And if you look at his pitch metrics so far, his four-seam fastball averages 101.2. So he's pretty much been he's only thrown 6 innings, but he's pretty much the hardest thrower in the game behind Mason Miller. And then he has a sinker this year that is also averaging 101. He also has a cutter, which is averaging 96.6, and then he also has a slider. So what's kind of interesting about him is that before he was pretty much just fastball cutter, but the cutter was more of a slider. That was in the low 90s. He's now changed up his pitch metrics to where he actually has a real cutter, like a Kenley Jansen or a Manuel Clase cutter that averages 96. So more of a real fastball cutter, not like a slider cutter. Based on what guys call pitches, it's all kind of, gets jumbled up. Tyler Glasnow might call his slider a cutter, but it's really a slider. A cutter is more of a pitch that is closer to your fastball. So if you're a guy who sits in the mid-90s and you throw a cutter, what you call a cutter, and it's 87, 88, that's more of a slider. So now Henriquez has a cutter that is more closer to his fastball, 96 miles an hour. It's been up to 100. And he has a sinker. If you look at his pitch usage so far, he goes 35% sinker, 31% cutter, 28% four-seamer, and then he has that other, slider. And it was noticeable when he was pitching against the Angels. He had a couple strikeouts, one against Luis Rengifo, where you could really see the ball cut at 99 miles an hour. And then obviously in this game against the Padres, he hit 103. He had a couple strikeouts. So really interesting guy. The Dodgers have not, over the years, had a ton of guys who threw super hard. And right now with their pen struggling, he looks like a guy who could be interesting. Now, is he going to be used as a high leverage guy? We'll see. But 6'4", he's a big guy. Now, he's only 23 years old, so they'll definitely be careful with him. But, with that explosive stuff, it doesn't matter. It's hard to hit a guy who throws that hard. His batting average against his sinker is 200. Against the cutter, it's 100. Against the four-seamer, it's 125. He hasn't got a ton of strikeouts this year so far. Now, it's only been 6 innings. Like I said, in 6 innings, only 4 strikeouts. But a lot of the advanced metrics love him and love how explosive his stuff is. And he really hasn't walked many hitters, which is cool. Because obviously a guy who throws that hard, you kind of imagine will always have some walk issues. Again, it's all 6 innings, so we'll see. But I would love for him to stay up in the bullpen with the Dodgers. Now, we'll see at some point it's going to be Yates, Scott, and Kopech returning from the IL, as well as maybe Brock Stewart at some point. So will he stay? We'll see, because obviously there will be guys who have to get sent down. I would not mind having Henriquez as a, way down on the depth chart option, throwing that hard. Definitely a guy who has to be a part of the Dodgers' future because of how hard he throws and because of the stuff he possesses. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully he stays up. We'll see, though, with all the guys coming out off the IL. So the last guy I just wanted to credit for this game, Teoscar Hernandez. Kind of an interesting guy. I've said this before, how he's kind of gone under the radar all year for the poor season he's had. In the last 20 games, he's kind of under the radar, but he's kind of gone under the radar for how good he's actually been. I thought that's kind of cool. Last week against the Blue Jays, I forgot if he hit a home run in that series, but there was a lot of swing and miss. He's always struggled against right-handed sliders. But he hit 2 home runs in this series, Friday and Saturday night. He's hitting .273 with a .293 on base, a .558 slug. That gives him an .851 OPS. So those are much more in line with the numbers we saw from him last year. Weighted runs created plus of 129. In those last 20 games, he has 6 home runs. So it'd be really interesting, what he does going down the stretch. He's got his OPS up to 758. So he's been about just above league average. Of course, the thing with Teoscar is that he's going to swing and miss a lot, and he's going to chase a lot. He's always hit the ball hard. He always has good bat speed. He slugs. He crushes left-handed pitching. But he's kind of like a glorified Andy Paz. Maybe Andy Paz, because of the production this year, has kind of passed him up. Is trying to hit the ball hard, but he's going to chase a lot. He doesn't have great, he's in the 5th percentile in walk percentage, and in chase percentage, he's in the 36th percentile. And we know about his defense in right field. It's not good. But I just thought it's, worth noting. He's got 20 homers on the year so far. We're in mid-August, so probably hit like 25 homers or something like that. Now, again, the on-base is very low. Last year, he had a 339 on-base, which is, pretty solid. This year, it's down to 287. So, again, a guy who doesn't walk, for him to have his success, he's going to need to make contact and hit the ball out of the ballpark. So I just thought it was cool. Last 20 games, he's got an OPS, in the 800s like that. Maybe he'll be heating up. Again, he's a very streaky player, but because of his approach at the plate, because of the way he'll swing and miss, he'll kind of have like a game where he'll just look like lost at the plate, or even a series, but then he'll get really hot. So we're going to Colorado next. I'd love to see him get even hotter, continue to this hot stretch, maybe get his numbers in a better place. He's kind of one of those guys. He's 32 years old. He signed that contract, obviously, to re-sign with the Dodgers. Because he's really bad in the outfield, obviously the DH spot is, taken for the next 10 years with Shohei. He's got to play a corner spot, so you're sacrificing defense, a lot of it, having him out there. And if he's, going to do that in the outfield, which he is because he's a bad outfielder, he needs to be hitting at the plate. With a lot of the guys hitting well, like Will Smith, obviously Shohei, Freddie Freeman, he kind of gets lost, especially Max Muncy as well. But hitting in that 5th to 6th slot, again, his bat, any team would dream to have a guy hit 5th or 6th who hits 20 home runs and has a 758 OPS. But the Dodgers definitely, it's been a fall off from what it was last year. I think a lot of that has been the hamstring injury that he had, but that was all the way back in May. So at this point, he's been back in June, July, and in August. So at some point, you got to put that behind you, and you just got to, play better. So one thing you can do, and one thing you can count on when it comes to Teoscar is that he'll show up in the big moment. So I think he's going to be pretty good going forward. So we'll see. It was nice to see him hit those 2 homers in this series, especially to the big part of the ballpark, because he's usually going to try to pull the ball, but he does have the ability to go the other way. He is a really strong guy, and we'll see. Hopefully he gets hot. I would love to see his OPS creep up closer to 800, and then you would kind of not really have like a bad taste about him this year. Again, he's been above league average, so I don't think he has like a poor taste. I don't think it's been a bad year, but it's definitely been a regression. And considering how he plays defense and his age, you don't want to see that, considering the contract he just signed. But I believe in Teoscar, and I think that a lot of his poor play was because of that injury. And I think that a lot of that's behind him, and it's showing in the last 20 games. Even though, again, it kind of doesn't feel like that sometimes, but the numbers are the numbers. In 20 games, like I said, last 20 games, which dates back to like the end of July, mid-July, he has an OPS of 851. Last game, Game 3, Dodgers are going for the sweep in this game. Talk about that. This game was played today on Sunday, August 17th. Tyler Glasnow goes up against Yu Darvish. So we always know Yu Darvish kind of pitches well against the Dodgers. We'll talk about that game. In the top of the first inning, Dodgers got on the board. A 3-run home run from Freddie Freeman. This ball was crushed halfway up the pavilion. It was actually on an 0-2 count, which is kind of cool. Fastball right down the middle. Freddie crushed it. Later on in that inning, Andy Paz, he hit a home run, his 20th of the year. A breaking ball that he got out in front of and hooked into left field. So Dodgers go up 4-0 in the first inning. The third inning, the Padres would get on the board on a Fernando Tatis double. This was right after Andy Paz made a really nice play, throwing out Freddie Freeman at second base. The Padres make it a 4-1 game. We will go all the way ahead to the fifth inning. Ramon Laureano hit a home run off Tyler Glasnow, who was still in the game at this point. So it's now a 4-2 game. Dodgers up 2 runs. Sixth inning, Ryan O'Hearn. At this point, Anthony Bonda comes in the game. He doubles off of Bonda to make it a 1-run game. Bonda comes out. Ben Gasparius comes in. He gets out of the inning. Dodgers still have the lead. The Padres would climb all the way back into this game. In the 8th inning, they would tie the game Jose Iglesias an RBI fielder's choice. This was after a hit by pitch. Alexis Diaz hit Xander Bogaerts, and then Ramon Laureano hit another double, and then the Jose Iglesias RBI ground out. So it's a tie game, 4-4, going into the bottom of the eighth. Robert Suarez, the Padres closer, comes in. I now saw reports that Mason Miller was not available, so it's kind of interesting. That benefited the Dodgers. Mookie Betts leading off the eighth inning, one of his biggest swings of the year so far. He homers off of Robert Suarez to give the Dodgers a lead, 5-4. Pretty cool moment. The ball was gone right when he hit it. Dodger Stadium got loud. So then Alex Vesia came in to get the save. He actually had come in the eighth inning to replace Diaz, so he comes back out for the ninth. Gets Tatis to pop out, Luis Ariz to pop out, and then he strikes out Manny Machado. Game over. Dodgers get the sweep. They go up 2 games on the Padres, so that's very key going into this week. Big series, biggest series of the year for sure. Dodgers showed up when it really mattered. In this game, it went Tyler Glasnow for 5. Anthony Bonda only pitched 1/3 of an inning. Ben Kasparius came in for him, goes 2/3 of an inning. Blake Trinan for 1. And then, like I said, Alexis Diaz went 1/3. And then shout out to Alex Vesia. He goes 1 2/3 to get the save, 1 strikeout. So Dodgers get the win and the sweep. Win by a score of 5-4. Quickly, we will talk about Glasnow. Another solid start from him. Glasnow goes 5 innings pitched, still allows 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. So, like I said, he allowed that 1 home run. He had 14 whiffs in the game, so he did get a ton of whiffs. There was some interesting stuff about Tyler Glasnow's pitches going into this game and what actually happened throughout the game. So, I've talked about it before. Glasnow, he's been dominant this year when he's been out there, of course. We all know that. But on the year now, Tyler Glasnow, he's got an ERA of 3.12. So, what I thought was interesting was going into this game, Tyler Glasnow, when you look at his individual pitches, he only had 1 pitch that has been getting hit around. His four-seam fastball has a batting average against of 182. The curveball has a batting average against of 104. And then the sinker that he also throws a good amount now has a batting average against of 129. The slider has a batting average against of 300, or it did coming into this game, I should say. And I always thought that was weird because last year the slider was one of his best pitches, and it's always been pretty good for him. But what was really cool to see, in this game, he threw that slider more than any other pitch. So he threw 34 sliders, 27 fastballs, 19 sinkers, and then 11 curveballs. He had 9 whiffs on that slider. So I thought that was cool, that was the only pitch that he's kind of struggled with, and he went into this start, whether he wanted to improve it, whether he saw something with the Padres and their numbers against sliders, whether it felt good, whatever the case, he definitely improved the numbers on that pitch, 9 whiffs on that pitch. So that's pretty cool. He only gave up 1 hit on the slider in this game, so the numbers will go down on that individual pitches. So, again, just more electric stuff. Didn't have the best of command in this game. It's kind of funny, like Glasnow, who's definitely had a walk issue this year, but he still manages to pitch into the 6th inning pretty regularly, especially since he's come off the IL. He had some quick innings the first couple innings, but then the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, he kind of struggled to get quick outs, and that kind of screwed him in the end to not be able to go 6. So he just goes 5 innings. But again, 5 innings, 8 strikeouts, more electric stuff from Glasnow. He's just so dominant. Again, another guy who, if the Dodgers wanted to give him the ball in a game 2 of a start, I mean, you couldn't go wrong giving him in game 1, but again, after Yamamoto, it's kind of, who would you want to pick between Snell, Glasnow, Ohtani, Kershaw? So didn't have crazy electric fastball stuff in this game. He still always has that really good velo in his back pocket, which I think is cool. He's always talked about how as he's gotten older, he doesn't really chase velocity that much, really only later in the count. So he'll still touch 98 when he needs to, which is cool, which shows you that he still has it. And his numbers are really good. Once again, he's thrown 57 innings this year. He's got an ERA of 3.12. He's got 72 strikeouts, a 1.14 whip. Again, he's been really bad with the walks. But in this start, only had 1 walk. So just kind of funny how he had some long innings, did give up some hits, but it wasn't really because of his the walks per se. it was more because they put the ball in play. Again, didn't have like the sharpest command if you were watching, but all in all, again, it just shows how good he is. Even though his last start against the Blue Jays, if you watch that game, he didn't have like the sharpest of command and stuff, but he still managed to pitch a really good game. It just shows how good he is. And when he's locked in like he was a couple weeks ago against the Twins, he's going to strike out over 10 guys. So we all know when he's on, he's one of the best pitchers in the game. Again, another guy that I just please stay healthy. I want to see him in a postseason series. I would just love, imagine going Yamamoto game 1, then maybe you give it to Snell game 2, and then Glasnow game 3. Maybe if you're on the road, it would just be amazing. I'm daydreaming. We're still in August, so just let me relax. But Glasnow, once again, he is in the 73rd percentile in expected ERA. In terms of expected batting average, he is in the 91st percentile. So nobody hits him hard. 90th percentile in K percentage. He gets a ton of strikeouts. Like I said, 57 and 2/3 innings pitched, 72 strikeouts. So it's also really good about Glasnow is he's keeping the ball on the ground. He's in the 74th percentile in ground ball percentage. So that's pretty cool too. He's been very good this year with runners in scoring position, which we know is part of the deal with Blake Snell. That's really key when you're a guy like Tyler Glasnow, who's allowed a lot of walks this year. Obviously, Glasnow, he's 6'8". He's a big guy who throws really hard. So it's not easy when you're that big to consistently throw that little ball into the strike zone all the time. I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but you're just never going to look at Glasnow and assume he's like a pinpoint accuracy kind of guy. Kind of can expect some walks from him. And this year he's been really bad with the walks. He's allowed a lot of walks, and he's just not been in the zone. And, Oral Hershiser was kind of breaking it down on the broadcast how he's gotten no chase. I mean, when you look at his Baseball Savant page, when it comes to percentile rankings and chase percentage, it has the number 1, which means he's in the very last percentile of pitchers in the league to get chase percentage. So what that kind of means is that it's either a ball or a strike out of hand, which means he's not a very edgy pitcher who keeps the ball on the edges of the plate. Like Yamamoto, he's the opposite of Yamamoto. Yamamoto lives on those edges of the plate. He is like, whenever you watch Yamamoto, it's like a fastball right on the corner, splitter right at the bottom of the zone. Glasnow is either thrown right in the zone or nowhere near the zone. So he's getting zero chase. So that means when he is not as much in the zone, it's going to lead to more walks. When he does get a little bit more in the zone, he's unhittable. So it's kind of that's the deal with him. What really helps is that because he's been bad with the walks this year, it helps that he has been really good with runners in scoring position, ton of strikeouts, also keeping the ball on the ground. So at the very least, when you're going to have base runners, the best way to get out of that stuff is to have a lot of strikeouts, swing and miss, and keep the ball on the ground. So at least if the ball's in play, there's a chance of a double play. That's the deal with him. It's kind of the same with Snell, but at least Glasnow can be a little bit more efficient and pitch deeper in the game. So that's also his style of pitching. Again, it's been a little heightened this year. He's never, throughout his career, he hasn't always been like a guy who can't throw strikes or has really bad command. But this year, for whatever reason, it's been much worse with the walks. 2019, he was in the 78th percentile in walk percentage, so he was much better at preventing walks. In 2023, he was in the 62nd percentile, and then last year, his first year with the Dodgers, he was in the 68th percentile. This year, for whatever reason, he has not been able to limit those walks. Looking at some of his numbers, I guess he's never gotten a ton of chase, so it's not too, I guess it's just one of those things where because of his style of pitching, he's either going to throw it in the zone, here it is, and hit it, or he's not really going to throw it anywhere near the zone, and because of that, he doesn't really get a lot of chase. But again, you can live with that when you're Glasnow and you're so big and your stuff is so good that you're not really going to get hit hard in the zone. He always is one of the lower batting average against guys. He's just so hard to hit. So, last year he didn't really get a ton of chase either, and it's definitely the case this year. So, again, he's really dominant, and he's one of my favorite pitchers to watch out of all the guys that are in the rotation. When hits Glasnow start day, I want to sit down and watch that whole start. So then the last guy we'll talk about today, Andy Paz. I just wanted to give him a lot of credit. I thought it was pretty cool. Today he hit his 20th home run, so at the age of 24, He won't be 25 until December. So his second season in the big leagues, first full-time season. Last year he got called up at the end of April, so that was really a full season. But first full-time season this year, 24 years old. He's got a 277 batting average, 322 on base, 461 slug, 783 OPS. Like I said, 20 home runs. He made another great throw in this game. One of the cool things about Pages is he doesn't just have a cannon of an arm. He's really accurate. And if you go and watch the play he made today, Freddie Fermin doubles out the right center wall. Pages smoothly fields the ball off the wall, spins, and kind of throws the ball sidearm into second base. And Fermin was gunned down at second base. When you look at his defensive numbers, in terms of outs above average, he's in the 96th percentile, so one of the best defenders on average. And then his arm value is in the 85th percentile, and his arm strength is in the 97th percentile. He throws his average velocity from his arm is 94.1. He's also pretty fast. Because of his style of hitting, like Teoscar Hernandez, he doesn't have a bunch of great expected numbers because he will chase and he doesn't walk at all, but he actually doesn't swing and miss too much. And he's one of those guys that has the launch angle sweet spot percentage, which means when he hits the ball in the air, he has a perfect launch angle kind of swing, hit the ball in the air with great backspin and great exit velocity. So he doesn't hit the ball super hard on average or have great barrel percentage. So that could lead to some regression at some point throughout his career. But I just 783 OPS. He has struggled as of late. His OPS has mostly been over 800, so maybe he can get hot and get that back up. But, in a lineup of superstars and really good players, he's kind of like the youngest everyday player. He's kind of one of the few young players that even plays every day. And, for him to be a mainstay pretty much all year and to be this good, he's one of the best hitters at home this year in all of baseball. He's turning into one of my favorite players. When you combine the pretty solid bat that he's had with the pretty amazing defense, when you think about it, and he's only 24 years old, so you would like to think that he'll continue to get better. Hopefully at some point he can, add a little bit more plate discipline to his game, but to be able this young in your career, this early, to be able to put up a pretty solid season, all-star caliber, like I said, 783 OPS, and that's even with the recent 20-game struggle. His numbers have been much better. To kind of be in that sixth spot in the lineup, 7, 8 sometimes. He's been very valuable. The Dodgers wouldn't be where they're at without him. We'll see at some point if Tommy Edman comes back. With Conforto being, the way he's played all year, could they put Tommy Edman in center and put Pages in a corner? I would love if they left Pages in right and moved Teoscar to left. For whatever reason, they don't really do that. I don't really know why, but it's just pretty cool. There were times last year, he was like a league average hitter last year. I always believed in him because I always just believe in those highly touted prospect guys who have that potential. But if you watched him his first year, what he was good at was hitting left-handed pitching, and he had a very good arm. He wasn't a great defender last year. He wasn't necessarily as this consistent at the plate. He's changed a lot of things, and he's increased his contact percentage. Just making more contact consistently and stuff like that. And it's kind of led to, it's kind of funny because you always thought that he would probably be a guy who strikes out a lot but hits for power. Because he's cleaned up some of his contact numbers, he hits 277 on the year, but he hasn't lost a lot of pop. He has 20 home runs. He's probably going to hit 25 home runs on the year. That's pretty solid. So he's starting to become one of my favorite players. I really like him. I hope that he gets hot, and I hope down the stretch he has some more moments. I'd love to see him have some cool moments in the postseason. And again, the Dodgers wouldn't be where they're at in first place without him for sure, because he's been one of the more consistent players all year. Last guy I'll just note is Mookie. He didn't do much in this series except for that swing, of course. This was his only hit in the series. We knew he had been playing very well coming into the series. Kind of stinks that in the 3 games he only had 1 hit, but it was the biggest swing of the series. If the Dodgers don't score in that 8th inning, and then, you never know what can happen after that. The Dodgers aren't the best team in extra innings. The Padres have a deep pen. You never know what could happen. So cool moment for Mookie. It was very reminiscent last year when he hit that walk-off home run against the Rockies. He hit a big home run against the Angels. Gave me those vibes. Mookie's always, he hasn't always been the most clutch in his Dodger career, but definitely since last year when he really was great in the postseason. And he's had some cool moments this year. He had that walk-off home run. He had that big swing a week ago off of Max Scherzer. This was definitely, in terms of like importance and the standings and stuff, this was definitely the biggest swing he's had, because of who it came against. So that was a cool moment. Hopefully he'll continue to swing the bat well for his, numbers and just put up some numbers against the Rockies this weekend. But again, he mentioned it. He doesn't really care about his numbers. It's a wash this year. It doesn't really matter. There's nothing he can do to improve his season, in terms of like having really good numbers. All you can do is just try to help the team win, and that's what he did in this game. And it was kind of the saver for a Dodger sweep because this series was almost lining up to be very similar to last week, where the Dodgers took the first 2 games against the Blue Jays, came into the third game looking for the sweep, got out to an early lead, and then slowly let the Blue Jays back into the game and then kind of lost it in the end. This was the opposite of that. I wouldn't say the opposite. It was almost close. But this time it was a different story because they had the big homer in the end, and then Alex Vesia nailed down the win. So that's all I have for all the 3 games. Super fun series. Obviously, it has been dark times since basically their last sweep. The last sweep was against the White Sox. Then they played the Astros. That was July 4th. Ever since then, it's just been a struggle bus for the Dodgers. But I said to you guys after the Angels series, I thought that series would be a big turning point to look back at for the Dodgers. I gave you all the numbers, how they had played in the previous month. I gave you the numbers from last year, 41 games remaining, how good the Dodgers played. Since that last Angels lost, they're now 3-0. We'll see what happens. Obviously, like I said, biggest series of the season. They came in down a game from the Padres, which is kind of crazy. They were up 9 games. It's kind of crazy to think that they were down a game. They were, a wild card team, essentially. They flipped that on its head, swept the Padres. I wouldn't have guessed they swept the Padres. I was confident they were going to win the series. I would not have thought that they swept. I thought the Padres would have got 1. Now they will go into the upcoming week, last 2 weeks of August coming up. They will now go into that, up 2 games on the Padres. They now get to play the Rockies. So what's really nice is that you won the 2 games, or you won the 3 games, so you go 3-0 against the Padres. Now you're up in the division. Now you get to play the Rockies. Now, last week they won 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays, and we thought they were going to have some games to win against the Angels, and they got swept. I don't think they'll get swept by the Rockies. The Rockies are in another solar system in terms of bad. The Angels were like a team that was like only a couple games below 500. The Rockies are the worst team in baseball by far. I wish the game was in LA because in Colorado you just never know. I think the Rockies actually just won their last series, so you never know what could happen in Colorado, but the Dodgers will have Yamamoto pitch. Kershaw will pitch in this series as well as Shohei, and then Emmett Sheehan, I think, will pitch the second game. The Dodgers bats need to show up to Colorado. I'd love to see a lot of guys get hot, like Teo, Mookie. I'd like to see Will Smith get a little bit hot. I'd love to see everybody get hot. I'd love to see a couple games where the Dodgers just, Coors effect, just hit a bunch of homers, a lot of runs, take some stress off the pitching staff. But don't take the Rockies for granted. Do not split the series. If you lose the series, we're going to be right back to where we were a week ago with the Angels. I don't think they'll do that. I'll take 3 out of 4. I'm going to be, usually I'm very realistic, but I'm going to be stern. All right, Dodgers, I'm going to be stern this week. I'll take 3 out of 4. I won't get on here and recap that pod. If they take 3 out of 4, I won't be mad. But if they split, I won't be very happy, and I would like a sweep. The Rockies are the worst team in baseball. Go sweep the Rockies. I wish it wasn't a 4-game set. I wish it was 3. But, hey, that's 4 games against the Rockies. That should be 4 free wins. I know how baseball works. I shouldn't say free wins, but they're the worst team in baseball. Go in there, sweep the Rockies, and then go into San Diego. Who knows how many games up, and take care of business then. We'll deal with San Diego again when we have to next week. But all in all, tremendous series from the Dodgers. Tremendous fight and fortitude to, do something about what happened this week. They were embarrassed against the Angels. I talked about it, and they've been embarrassed the last month. To get off the deck like that, especially even after the news that Muncy was going on the IL, to do enough offensively. They hit a good amount of homers, got some good pitching from, all the three starters, and then the bullpen just did enough. It was perfect. I'd love to see the Dodgers get hot. If they can go and sweep the Rockies, that'd be 7 straight wins going into San Diego. That'd be great. That'd be really great. I'll take 3 out of 4, but I'd love a sweep. So, as always, you can get this podcast, guys, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. I've been yapping for a little bit now. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Talking Blue at Talking Blue Pod on all social media. Follow me at Talking Blue Nick on X, as well as competitive-week 8715 on Reddit. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back to recap the Dodgers-Rockies series this upcoming week.